And we are live. So we should be going live now, as webinars are not something new. It's always a little bit about technicalities. So I hope you can hear me. Please, down in your right corner of the screen, there should be a small comment box. Just let me know if you can hear me. That will be great. And in the meantime, we're just waiting a few minutes to get everyone on board. Søren, you're my hero of the day. First, okay, second coming in. It's almost like a leaderboard. Peter can hear and loud and clear. All right, I'm happy. Thanks for that, guys. You found the chat. Mission accomplished. Awesome. I have a little bit of snooze in my nose, so I don't hope it will be disrupted. I don't hope I'm falling sick. That'll be a pain. I'm going on vacation here, so cross our fingers and dot the i's, and let's hope everything will be good. But thanks for joining and signing up for Why You Can't Miss Out on Gamification 2023. I have quite exciting set of slides, and I'll make it as interesting as possible. So it's not just 10,000 slides, but I hope I can catch your attention and give you some good insights here. I think I'll just wait maybe 30-60 seconds more to just see if a few more people will be joining. But else, of course, love that you're online. But of course, after this is ending, you'll also get it sent afterwards, so you can rewatch it. You'll also get the slides in the deck as well. And you are very welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions directly. You just write me on LinkedIn, text me by phone. I use my phone a lot. I think we all do. Or write me an email, and then we should be all good. So I think we will get started. I can see most of the signups have attended. So let's get into it. Yes, hi from Copenhagen, Roberta. That was just one question. It's going to be approx 1 hour with a bit of a time slot in the end. I actually could remember there was a bit of confusion regarding how long it is. It is 1 hour, so 11:50. I should be done talking. There should be some questions in the end. I hope that answers your questions. Perfect. But let's get into it. This is a webinar in the beginning, January, Why I Can't Miss Out on Gamification 2023. Let me get into who I am. Why am I standing here? I'm the CCO, Chief Commercial Officer of Scratcher. Besides that, I'm a huge golf nerd, but being in Denmark, minus degrees, sometimes snow, sometimes just too cold, I've actually taken a keen interest in climbing and bouldering. So if you're in Copenhagen and up for climbing some indoor bouldering, hook me up. Let's climb some stuff. But else, if you want to talk about professional stuff, everything else, yeah, you can still reach out to me. Hook me up on LinkedIn. There's my handle, Nikolai@scratcher.io. Pretty easy and simple to remember. A lot of people in UK or other countries, they ask me how to pronounce Nikolai, but I just say Nick. Nick is fine. That'll do. You can always reach me at my phone number as well. I have 10 years of experience in the marketing technology industry, everything from PR, digital, paid advertising, and so on. So that's sort of where my general knowledge comes from. A lot of research papers, white papers, webinars, etc., 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 and of course experience, but that's sort of implied in there. So the agenda that we're going to cover today is, and if I'm looking here to the side just to see if there's any other questions, I can see it's interest and people are still joining. So just went through the introduction, and the agenda for today that we're going to cover in the next hour or so is going to be the landscape 2023, because that basically sets the scene on why you can't miss out on gamification as an opportunity in 2023. So if you're not already using or applying gamification to your marketing funnel, you'll understand why you need to have a serious discussion internally and how this tool could be really efficient in your travel, in your plans. Then I'm going to show you some benchmark. That's again to see that if you're doing something today, you could be missing out on some potential performance. And I'm also going to give you hopefully some inspiration about top funnel games and interest. It's just interactive content pieces. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into how to segment user data, have some tips and tricks for optimizing this. So whether you are already using gamification today or you're thinking about dabbling into it and dipping your toes, this should be of interest to you as well. I have the tips and tricks in the end. So if you see this record, you can just run through it, but else you will have to wait about 35 minutes and then you will be able to see it. If you have any questions along the way, you basically just write in the chat and I will try to look down here once in a while. For those of you who don't know what Scratcher is a leading gamification platform. It's a B2B SaaS business, means that you will get a license to it. You can always go in and try it. We have a free trial, so go into scratcher.io, create a free trial, top right corner. You get 40 days for free, no commitment and no credit cards. It's equally used among B2C, B2B companies, but also, for instance, consumer services, NGO, and financial companies. It's just a matter of how you basically approach it. We have more than 300 clients currently, pretty young company, and we have made more. I can see there's a typo here. We have more than 17,000 gamification campaigns run throughout since 2017. So yeah, we have quite a few examples or cases that we can tap into. And today I'm just taking 3 of those 17,000 examples. So I had to dig a little bit deep to find some of them. Of course, these are some of my personal favorites campaigns and some of the best practice campaigns I've seen out there. So what are we looking into here in 2023? It's a young year. We have a few years behind us. We have COVID. We had the transition from a lot of offline to online. A lot of these is not a seminars anymore. Now it's a webinar. And you should also be familiar with and have experienced that a lot of the physical traffic that you used to have is more digital, and also being able to sort of tap into that digital landscape even more than it was previously. The thing is, though, that with everything going on in the world right now, we can see that consumer spend is significantly down. A lot of reports say that consumers are very, very careful with their money, and that of course results in increased competition, and it will also increase if you're a consumer brand. It can also result in a lowering prices. We just saw Tesla just lowering their prices with 100,000 Danish crowns, like 15 to 18,000 euro per car. So there is a lot of this going on in the market right now, and you really, really need to have a good audience strategy. You need to have the data on it, and you need to be able to target those people, keep them loyal, retain it, and make it be about something else than price, and more about experience and interaction, brand affinity, and so on. We have experienced the last many years now that privacy and freedom is changing for the consumers that are moving in the digital space. Everything from GDPR to cookies and targeting. We saw the Act versus Google Analytics. So of course, this is a tendency that is not stopping. This is a trend. So we should expect that consumers want to keep their privacy and keep their freedom even more for the future, which will result in fewer tracking and lesser insights. And how to counter it is, of course, to offer something to the consumers in a quid pro quo, something for something, in terms of actually getting that data. We see that third-party platforms such as Meta and Facebook, Instagram, they are getting a worse conversion, and you are not able to target the same audiences in the same way as you could previously, and that results obviously in poor performance as well. So it's really about reclaiming that data and reclaiming that audience yourself is really, really going to be vital for 23 and moving on. So that's what I just talked about, less accurate ad targeting. It will decrease conversion rates. If we are not able to personalize the messages, we will have lower click-through rates in emails, as an example. I've read reports that basically says that consumers are expecting more personalized content, but at the same time, they don't want to give away data and they don't want to be targeted. So that's sort of a dilemma that stands in, and I think that gamification can tap very nicely in the middle to basically start talking about that. Okay, we give them something for their data, and in return, they both get something in the short term, but they also start to get more personalized messaging, which will, of course, retain loyalty, interest, and will convert more over time. We also see definitely when other paid channels are not performing as well, that the SEO and SEM competition is increasing. Of course, with the landscape and consumers being more careful out there, it's, of course, going to look for something like SEM is more crucial because they are already searching for something very specific in mind. Maybe the purchase action on need has already been taken. Thus, they will appear here. So this will increase cost for maintenance, and the result is that it's going to be more expensive to get the same amount of visitors as it was last year and previous years. So if you need to maintain the balance, of course, you need to up the prices, but then the competitors lowering the prices, etc., etc., etc. So this is sort of the dilemma and the landscape that we are in right now. And in the next 30 minutes, I'll touch on how gamification can sort of be a catalyst to help you get that engagement, catch these people's attention, and help them convert through gamified offers and prices and interactions. So I hope that you will stay tuned. So, of course, with all of this sort of trending and happening, it's more important than ever before to stand out and to sort of get your brand out there. But just getting the awareness, on the third-party platform is not where you actually want to really end the relationship. You really want to drag them into your universe, so you don't have to sort of get them through a funnel where you might not be getting the data, unable to implement that data to CRM, CDPs, and whatnot you are also working with. So basically, gamification, what is it? Maybe some of you have a lot of experience with it, maybe some don't. So I'm just briefly going to cover what gamification is. After I'm going to go through these benchmark numbers. So the benchmark basically is looking at all of the 17,000 campaigns, how ordinary non-gamified content pieces performs, and how it could perform when adding gamification. If you're looking at this in hindsight, you can always go to scratcher.io, look at cases and case success stories. We have, I think, 15 case studies or something like that. So you can look into to see if any brand is familiar with you or something you can relate to. If you don't really find anything that is directly one-to-one, or you need further inspiration, just reach out to us, book a demo. We don't bite. We might just try to sell you something, but you can always say, no, thank you, or wait, I'll consider that and get back to you later. No harm done. Some of the data that I find is really, really exciting for the 17,000 campaigns when we analyze some of that is that we can see that on average, there's a 35% conversion rate. So that means if you're actually driving traffic to a gamified landing page, we see that up toward 35% on average across different game types and so on, actually registers and part away with that data, permission, zip codes, phone numbers, etc. And if you use them wisely, it is very valuable data, of course. Up against 60% of consumers, they're more likely to buy. They enjoyed playing a game. There's a lot of trends that basically says that, okay, we're tired of advertising. It's about breaking through the noise, about standing out. And if you actually have an interactive opportunity for your consumers to interact with, there's a much higher likelihood that they actually want to interact with your brand. They find it more fun. And if they find it more fun, well, studies show that it's actually they're more likely to convert and buy with you as well, rather than a non-fun brand. There's a lot of stats out there. You can just Google gamification marketing stats as well. Yeah, if you're a data guy like me, dig into it and yeah, feel free to discuss with me and reach out to me. I love to have some good qualified discussions about this. So if you have a normal pop-up newsletter like save 10% on your first purchase or something like that, well, it should convert about 2% usually on your website. But if we actually see a Scratcher gamified content pop-up with a spinning wheel or a scratch card, you should expect the performance up against 10 to 12%. So if you have 50,000 or 100,000 visitors, getting 2,000 permissions versus 10,000 permissions, well, do the math. It is a lot of data and permissions to be missing out with that you potentially down the road could segment, send offers, and etc., etc., etc. When you drive traffic straight from a paid advertising to a landing page, if you have offline to online with QR codes, we see that between 40 to 60%, more than half, they actually convert and sign up and give away and again part away with their data. It's because they get something. Of course, you need to make sure that the content is branded and you have a viable offer for them. But in the end, if you give something, they will also give you something. And that's sort of the soft conversion part that we are talking about today. There's a lot more stats. I don't want to just hammer away stats here, but we see higher click-through rates. Super important when we can see that opening rates are skewed on iOS devices and other places where they're sort of trying to limit the transparency. So we really want them to click through and land on a page. And then we can see a higher click-through rate on emails and paid social as well. So basically get a little bit out of that CPM and get them to land and soft convert before we get them into our funnel and flows to get them to more hard convert and action taking as well. I was at a podcast together with a Danish SEO agency, and we had a long conversation about how gamification can actually affect SEO. And one small thing is that if you make a really good personality test, a quiz, a product quiz along those lines, you can actually have a really, really nice time spent increase on that page. So of course, if you have a category page, a landing page with a lot of your interesting keywords, getting users to not bounce and getting them to stay on that page, interact with more pages, internal links, etc., will increase time spent and will thus again have a positive effect on your business's SEO. So that's when we're talking about gamification, there's a lot of different areas you can sort of tap into and look at the different value pointers. But enough of the stats. I want to get into some examples for you. So basically, one of the things when people start to hear gamification, they're not just thinking about interactive marketing content. They might be thinking about esports scene like Counter-Strike or something like that, or Candy Crush or mobile phone games. But in reality, it's the gamified, it's incorporating interactive elements of gaming into a non-gaming context. And that's basically what gamification marketing is, or marketing gamification is that you sort of take elements of puzzle or games or interactive content elements, you engage the users to sort of get more engagement from them. They do specific actions, and you can sort of design and attribute that entire flow to your entire funnel there. And some of the examples that I have and I want to show you later will tap into this scene. So one thing that I also see here that I want to share with you guys is that a lot of people, when they think about gamification, they might just think about a pop-up, but a pop-up is just one little placement in your entire industry or your entire business. So having a pop-up is nice. We saw that a standard pop-up converts 2%, Scratcher gamified pop-up converts up to 10 to 12%. But what about your membership? What about your apps? What about your web page with categories saved? What about if you're an e-commerce, if you have a checkout page? What about if you actually send products, physical products, and in the packaging, you have a small flyer, maybe you have a small code on your box, and they can actually redeem it or be a part of a quiz or more engaged. So you can actually follow the entire journey as well. What about your newsletters? Just receiving personalized content and ads and so on. Well, a lot of people just want to send, businesses just want to send ads and promos and everything. What about if it suddenly there's product reveals, but it's not just telling them in the mail what it is revealed, but they actually maybe have to scratch to see who is the upcoming musician at a festival, or what movie is behind the curtain, or win 2 tickets to XYZ, etc. If you're in the B2B industry, maybe you have guides. You could both have it in travel, of course, travel guides, 5 reasons why you should go to US. But what about flipping that guide instead and saying like, what travel would fit you the most? So suddenly turning a guide into a recommendation engine and then sort of call to action to the guide afterwards would help navigate that user experience and transition them from a soft conversion, enrich their user experience, and maybe they will be even more interested in actually the guide after they have it recommended by a personality test or a quiz. So in the way that we see when we are having a dialogue with a customer or when we're having dialogue with a brand, we basically can map all of the different areas where gamification can be applied to sort of say, what is it we as a brand want to achieve? Everyone want to achieve more sales, but increasing the user experience, user journey, and data collection, all the various steps here actually increases the overall business over time. So think about that when next time you are thinking about just looking at one of these areas. Think about how you can uniform and integrate it in one long flow. It doesn't have to be campaigns like Easter or Valentine's, but you can actually make always on content. And I'm going to touch about that a little bit later as well. So I mentioned that I will come with a few examples. I probably for the next time will probably bring the examples in a bit earlier. I just think it's so important to set the scene. But here is 3 of my personal favorite top funnel converting games. Number 1. This is a campaign that Kim's Danish crisp bag company did. And what they did was that they wanted to activate the end consumers. And the fact is that the consumers are in the stores buying the crisp off the shelves. And Kim's, they wanted to reclaim some of that data, and they wanted to understand who are actually buying our crisps. They didn't have a lot of data, and they wanted to launch a web shop. So one of the things they did was that they put in these small QR codes here on the crisp bags, and you can then peel it off, and behind there's a code, and that code you can enter here. So you basically just scan it, QR code. When you're in the shop, you're sort of like, okay, I bought my crisp, I want to go home. You sit there and enjoy, scan, boom. You want a trip, you can win a trip to Marrakesh or Cancun with this. And the more crisp bags and the more stickers you have, the higher the temperature sort of increases here. So this is an awesome example of how you can actually get some omnichannel activation, and you as a manufacturer of a product can start to actually get in direct contact with your end consumers, even though you have a retailer joint around you. For this quiz, they contacted the data collector, they got the name, they got the emails, and they can of course use all of that information to retarget and so on. I have some bullets later on what you can use the data collected for as well. But this is an awesome campaign, and my favorite was actually the Marrakesh. So that's a question, some insights for you. Another awesome example I really like is this one here from Danish Housing Association, where they are focusing on providing mortgages and opportunities. And this is basically the entire flow from advertising to a landing page to sign up, and then the different question there is, and then there will be a different outcome based on the test you took. So what they basically have done is that they can get a 3 times higher click-through rate when they actually launch something like this. This is a GIF file, so the small bar moves as well. It's pretty cool. You land here and it basically says, oh, can you save money on your loans, on your mortgages? And then you actually take it, you sign up with your name, email, phone number, birthday, and address. And all of this customizable data request, you can integrate that with over 40 systems. And then you can get those data shot straight into your CDPs or whatever system you want. There is various data points here, but all of this data in the questions, you can set that up so you actually have the opportunity to segment them and target them afterwards. And this is where the time spent increases, as I touched a little bit upon afterwards. Once you then taken your results, and in this case for the screenshots here, I got red. You should strongly consider switching banks. Order financial check here. Well, you sort of have gone through a test and quizzes. You have answered them. If it's made well, it's very trustworthy. So once you're here on the 5th stage and you get red, oh, you should strongly consider switching banks. There's some recommendation here that's like, this is to motivate a certain behavior, and here the call through action is to book a meeting. Of course, this company, if they don't immediately book a meeting and they're red, they would probably receive a call afterwards saying like, hey, I can see you tip the chest. I could see this was your result. So do you have time to discuss that? And is the reason why you didn't reach out to us? So there is a really good way to actually collect more data. And this is a very, very cool campaign as well. This one is another one of my favorite campaigns. It's basically talking about that you can spin and win. It's a standard Wheel of Fortune. And I see a lot of companies, they don't like Wheel of Fortune, but the fact is they convert a lot. The most important thing, I think, is that you just need to make it on brand. You need to understand who is your target audience and what do you do. So this was a shopping mall, and they had a yearly goal of collecting 4,000 leads. And as a shopping mall, you don't really have anything to offer. You really want to have the people nearby come and shop in the shops that are part of the mall, of course. But what they did was they activated this campaign on social media, pop up on the landing page where they have opening hours and so on, that you Google a lot to see if the center is open. And then you can actually spin and win. So they had some collaboration with some of the brands that's a part of the mall and can really, the flagship stores that can attract. And they managed to collect names, email, and zip codes. And that zip codes was really important for them, so they can understand where are the people coming from, and are the leads we're collecting, are they actually relevant? But they managed to collect more than 5,300 permissions in 2 weeks. They had that goal for 1 year. So this is just an example of how easy it can actually be if you have a good proposition, your advertisement is good, and you have a good game going on with good mechanics on brand, that you can really, really start to collect the permissions. So for me, talking to you guys, if you say that, oh, we don't really have focus on permissions, we haven't really managed how to do it, it is not the hard part. The permissions are not the hard part. You can get covered the permissions you need. The next part is the interesting part. It's where you actually get and segment the data and activate and use that data for a lot more stuff. And that's where you will win in the long end. But if you don't have a big up-to-date permission database in 2023, sorry to say, but you're going to lose out, and you're going to pay much more for your advertisement than what you really need. Your competitors are going to be way ahead of you as well. So some of the data points that is interesting for you to look at is, of course, the demographical data. Those are typically what you could get in a top funnel campaigns, sort of like permission conversations and leads, name, email address, phone number, zip codes, physical addresses, etc. You can add a lot of those. You can get gender, age, etc., etc., etc. But what I really think is the next level power of gamification is that when you actually take these tests or quizzes or interact with it, you can actually get some preference data. So you can get an understanding of product preferences. You can get an understanding of quiz-based segmentation data. And I'm having an example of you. I'm going to show you as well. Or you can also get the choice-related information. And bear in mind, this is pre-purchase. So they don't need to have purchased anything, because a lot of e-commerce brands say, well, you have already purchased this and this and this, so I know you like this and this and this. That's fine. Maybe they don't accept cookies. You can't see what else they click on. But by taking these quizzes, you start to be able to perform, to create really, really nice personas. And those personas you can segment very specific. The next campaign I'm going to show you have that persona mapping really excellent and really well done. So this is an example of benefits of a gamified content piece that does a lot. And that's why I'm talking about, don't necessarily focus on campaigns. Think about how you can do always on content pieces. And then it's okay to drive traffic in campaign, but make the content pieces so that it can be activated or reactivated if it converts really well. There is no need to reinvent the wheel, the spinning wheel, several times. It is, if you create it well, create it good, it works. So this one is activated top, mid, and bottom from the entire funnel, plus after purchase if they're already customers. The campaign itself, or the content piece, collects persona types. You can segment that in the CM system. You can both get new permission, name and email addresses, but you also enrich the emails that is already clients with you with more data and more preference data that you can help segment in the CM system later on. So the results, more permissions. You even increase sales with the campaign I'm going to show you for inspiration. You increase the user experience and engagement. Remember that 60% of consumers think it's more fun or tend to buy more if they have fun or gamed. And you also increase dwell time on the site. And once I show it, I think you're going to think that, oh, that was actually quite simple. It's not, rocket science, but it's just really well thought out. So this is a campaign from Wideaway, making a quiz or personality type test, where they're asking basically, what type of coffee or coffee drinker are you? And they are advertising this on social media, on their websites, landing pages, and newsletters, and sort of driving various different parts of traffic to this quiz and test. And throughout the various questions, you can actually, depend on what you answer, you are either a capsule coffee machine drinker or espresso or filtered coffee. So they have various recommendations for you. And what I really think is really neat, so they have 3 persona types that they can attach to your email, but then they can also build on that for the future and basically ask you, so when was the last time you changed out your filtered coffee machine, or do you actually have a filtered coffee machine, or what's the reason that you don't have a filtered coffee machine, etc., etc., etc. But the call to action in the end of this was actually that if I turned out to be an espresso machine recommendation, I would land on a landing page, an e-commerce site with espresso machines. And the next part, if I then purchased this and became this, you can also send guides to them, best practices for cleaning, best practices. These are the 5 things you need, or etc., etc., etc. So this campaign is both generating permission, enriching data, and increases sale while making it much more fun. And you also bring some value to the consumers, where they can actually get some ideas on what coffee machine could be the best fit for them based on their personality. I'd love to hear if you have any questions or anything for these things that I'm touching upon. You are more than welcome to write questions in the chat, but else I'm just gonna go along. I'll take a look in the chat if there's anything coming in. Doesn't look like it, so I'm just gonna carry on here. I touch a bit upon this, whether it should be campaigns or always on. Sure, we can just do like that. Yeah, there we go. So I don't want to go into further than that, but for those of you who are still looking, and for you who are looking in the future, here is some tips and tricks to optimize conversion and make it as easy as possible for you if you're thinking about planning a gamified campaign. Prices. It is really important to think about the prices that you offer, and just be aware that a prices doesn't necessarily have to be, you can win a trip, you can win a travel, you can win a car. Of course, tangible and physical prices are always nice and do attract attention. But the most important part is to think about your audience and make sure that the audience that is in your target audience group, that the price you offer actually matches them, so you get as much relevant signups, permissions, and data points as possible. But another type of people is also, they just want to have an experience, they want a guide, they want to know a bit more about themselves, or they want a recommendation. So getting knowledge or a skill test is a different type of price, so that people are very interested in actually getting what type of person am I, and so on and so on. So don't always attach a economical expense for prices. A price can also be justified by giving a discount. So for instance, when you have if you have an e-commerce offer, instead of doing 20 or 30 or 40% side-wide discount, you can say that the biggest price you can win is 40% discount. And then there's a smaller discounts that you technically can win visible, it looks like it. But in reality, everyone wins 40% discount if they spend it within X amount of days. This will make it much more unique, and you'll feel like you won this opportunity to get a discount with 40% or 30% or the percentage that you choose. But in reality, everyone who takes the test win it. And that's much more effective than doing company-wide discounts. And it won't also affect your brand to be a discount-focused or discount-based brand. So you'll be able to sort of have and host and make these very attractive competition. Plus you get data and permissions, etc., etc., etc. If you have some specific ideas for your brand out there, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to have a look and have a discussion with you on how to make some good ideas that you can tap into. Next thing is design. Make sure to follow your own design guide and be on brand. So the biggest sort of concern I've seen and have a conversation about gamification is when you can't really, or you're not working with a platform that allows it to be super customized and allows to follow your design guide. And then it loses trust in your consumers. It's not on brand, and it becomes not that effective in terms of conversion, and you lose out on that trust. So critical design is good. You need to be on brand. We discussed a bit about placement. So on the big slide where I have, you think about where you can actually place and optimize it. Doesn't only have to be in the digital asset, doesn't have to be just on site, pop-up, guides, checkout pages, but also think about newsletters, social media, but also physical assets such as event pages or QR code that you can activate, whether you're doing outdoor flyers or events. Then you have a lot of areas where you can actually bring this traffic in and bring this attention and stand out. Campaigns, yeah, don't be afraid of running multiple campaigns. Some of our best customers and users of Scratcher, they have 12 to 15 campaigns that's running all the time. Whether they then put spend on it is another thing. But you can easily, for instance, think about campaigns or tests that are always on, is on category pages, is on the front pages, or is with QR codes in your physical stores or outlets. That is just, long tail commitment and slowly creating that traction as well. One of the best practices I've seen is that if you are really into performance, sales, and conversion, hard conversions, and lead gen, make sure you dedicate ads to the campaign and make sure you create some really nice GIFs or interactive content that will sort of make sure that they click through and go into and convert, rather than just making the easy way out and say win 2 tickets, write who you want to share the experience with on Facebook. And all the traffic, all the insights goes to Facebook, interaction goes to Facebook, and nobody will sort of like give you any sort of permissions or emails or anything like that that you can use for the future. So it's like peeing in the pants a bit. It works nicely, but if you have to keep warm again, you have to pee in the pants again. And I would highly recommend to find a different strategy than the latter. Of course, all the nice data that I'm talking about is nice. If you don't have all of the fancy systems that the abbreviation talks about, you can also just use a CSV file from Scratch as an example. But else you can integrate it with Zapier, you can integrate it to CMS tools, email marketing tools. You can even integrate it with CDPs and AIs. And that is very, very effectively when you sort of get it as a part of your marketing tool stack and incorporates all of that. Here's a few of the examples of the systems that we work with and integrate with. Everything from, of course, Klaviyo, MailChimp, you have the Zapier, OpenAI, and loyalty systems, and more well-known systems, CM systems such as HubSpot or Salesforce. But you can always reach out to us to sort of talk about what the interactive or integration opportunities are. So enough with all the conversation about collecting data. What should we do with all that data, and why is the data so valuable? Well, since Facebook and other advertising platforms are closing sort of down, saying trust our AI to do target and segments. Well, if you have some very niche segments, imagine that you have taken a test, you're the coffee provider, and you are suddenly the coffee capsule type. Imagine if you can retarget all of them with ads saying that this type of machine is on discount, or there's a special offer for you, or there's a new machine launched. That is much more powerful than just sending out a general ad on various coffee machines. If, for instance, I took a test about I'm the coffee cups capsule type and I feel that that matches me, I wouldn't react to anything that I see which is a filter cup of coffee, and vice versa. So of course, putting the right content in front of the right eyes, that will increase conversion rate and sales. Newsletters, we talked about creating multiple different segments with the data that you collect. Newsletters and segmentations, very closely aligned. If you want to create loyalty clubs, membership clubs, well, you even have the option to make sure that those numbers or unique ideas or whatever that you have, codes, you can actually activate those and make sure that you can only be a part of a game on interaction if you actually have a unique code as well. If you're in the B2B industry, you can see that you can implement lead scoring. So if there has been certain activities, let's say that the coffee machine was coffee machines for B2B, well, the lead scoring for me, if I said that we don't currently have a coffee machine vendor, but we are on the look for something in a quiz, the lead scoring will suddenly increase, and it would be highly relevant for the account manager to get in touch with them. Feedback and, of course, CDPs, personality tools, etc., etc. There are so many opportunities to use the data, but don't think that you need to do everything at once. Zoom in on your KPIs and your primary goals and what you want to achieve, and start to sort of design that experience journey first yourself. Scratch as a platform, we are a license-based platform, 12-month subscription. You have more than 20 different kind of game formats. Everything can, of course, be customized to fit your brand identity. Else I wouldn't have also mentioned that's super important. It's a user-friendly drag and drop tool. You can build it yourself. It's basically designed by marketeers and for marketeers, so you can use it yourself. And one really, really important thing is that we have chosen to have a senior CS team sitting here who help with onboarding and best practices and cases. And our customer satisfaction score through chat is 98%. It's something personally I really hate if I have a software subscription or license. It is that I need help. I don't get any response. And I'm so happy to say that we have an average response time of 3 minutes. Last but not least, you can trust your collection with data and everything. So if you're thinking about talking to us and you have a strong legal department, they'll be happy to know that we are, of course, both having a data protection agreement, but also we are ISO 27001 certified. So we are pretty safe and secure for that matter as well. You can, of course, request these documents upon interest. Yeah. So a bit earlier than expected, it was a bit of a speed run. I had another webinar this morning. The next webinar we are hosting will be later in February. I think it's February the 14th, where we're going to have a customer case and customer interview with a big customer consumer brand, Power. And they're talking about how gamification, along with their CDP, has yielded some amazing results. We're going to do an interview there. So be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and email and get an update upon this if you think these are interesting topics. But else, I'm just going to stay for a few more minutes to just see if you have any questions, if anything pops up, if any opinions, anything you would have wanted me to elaborate a bit upon. I'm yours for the next few minutes until I can see that people start to sort of drop off. It doesn't look like necessarily there will be a lot of questions. Oh, there was one here. What are the best free games for 2023? That is a very open question, Peter. It really depends on what it is you want to achieve. So usually in my conversation, I don't focus a lot upon the game types, which I can see that you are asking for. What are the best free games? It really depends on what it is you want to achieve. So if I should see that free games that you need to have, it will be a top funnel lead converting games where you collect a lot of permissions. Those would be a scratch card or Wheel of Fortune. Then there would be some kind of engagement or sales performing that sort of help you convert. That would be something along the line of a personality test or quiz. And then, of course, there's retention and loyalty part, where it's about knowing a bit more about the audience, but also getting them to interact. And that would probably, for something that I really like, will be another quiz, test, feedback loop, or something like that. I think that is highly relevant as well to have these. Be sure, depending on where you are in the stage, to segment the data and log that data so you can use it in your marketing system. Because just having 3 or 5 segments is a lot stronger than one, and it's very, very simple to do once you have a few different games to get data from. Cool. But thanks for those questions. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If I'm closing down now and there was a question you were mindful of, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions afterwards you might have. If you're interested in a one-to-one demo of Scratcher, reach out to me. I'll be happy to do it. We just do a web meeting like this, but we look at your company and what the possibilities are. So take care and have a nice day out there.